everybody, this is Brian David Marshall on the Pro Tour set of Magic Weekend Nagoya. I'm here with Pro Tour superstar Luis Scott-Vargas, and we're going to talk a little bit about the new Phyrexia-infused Scars of Mirrodin draft format.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
It definitely seems very different to me than, I mean, not just on a card basis, but it seems different to me philosophically than the last two incarnations of Scars of Mirrodin draft.
The format has caught up to what I was doing since the first pack, which is draft slow controlling decks. Aggressive decks, which are generally poison, are now much harder to get like really fast versions of, because Plague Stinger, Cisbearer, Ichor Claw Mirror, those are all gone. You get one pack of those now, and the new Phyrexia guys are a lot slower.
Yeah, and I mean, I just watched you play a match, and it was like defined on both sides by these really kind of like cards that would be really dismissed as dross in the first.
Let's just say people are starting to appreciate Hexplate Golem, a guy I've never had a problem appreciating.
Okay, well let's walk through the first few picks of new Phyrexia. Come on over here. We got the pack up on the big wall.
Sweet.
Tell me what's going on here. What you're thinking about as you're looking through this pack.
My first thought was, why did I have to open a horrible pack? And there's really only I think 3 defensible cards here. You've got Razor Swine, which is pretty solid, though I think he's the worst of the 3. Then there's Spinethopter and Spire Monitor.
Okay, so you're not thinking Lost Leonin or Listener Elf, which if those were suddenly transported into
Triple Scars,
Scars, you'd be like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, they'd be a lot better there. I just don't think you can justify taking any card other than those 2. And then a lot of people I know would take the Spinethopter to keep themselves not color committed, which I don't think is a bad plan.
Right.
I like Spire Monitor a lot though, and I also like drafting blue. So Spire Monitor makes sense for me. It doesn't make sense for everyone, but it makes sense for me.
So you went with the big blue flyer, and you were willing to commit yourself to blue.
Yeah, I mean it's not the strongest commitment, but
Sure. All right. Well, let's look at the second pack. So again, there's a lot of interesting cards in here.
This pack's a lot better.
This pack's really good. Force Worship. What are you thinking there?
Force Worship's pretty good in most of the decks I draft, and just most decks in general. It's not good in a ground-based aggressive deck, but those are kind of rare. It's good in the White Flyers aggressive deck or a control deck. Right. So Force Worship's a card I'm not unhappy taking early.
Sure. Spinethopter.
It's still good. It's a card I am unhappy taking first or second though.
Thundering Tanadon's
yeah, I think that guy's horrible. But
really? You don't like that? I love this card.
It's a good card. It's just the way I draft, it does not good. Because in an off-color deck where you lose 4 life, paying 4 life for a creature does not appeal to me. And while he's
not seeing him being an on-color card at all.
Yeah, he is an on-color card. And if you're green, he ends up being really good. And he's also really good in an aggressive deck. But in the decks I look to draft, he's just not that strong. My first round opponent played Thundering Thanadon, and I just killed it both times. And it's not that good when that happens. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's a card that I find really interesting. I definitely watch a lot of people. Spoiler, he doesn't take Triumph for the Hordes here.
Yeah.
This seems to be a card that's very fireball-y, very overrunny. Just win the turn you play it.
It's a very good card, and I would not mind first or second picking it. Of course, and first pick Spire Monitor, second pick Triumph for the Hordes is not exactly where you want to be.
Okay. And then Gremlin Mine.
Gremlin Mine's good. It's kind of on par with a Steel Sabotage. It's better than Steel Sabotage, but it's a kind of narrow-ish answer, especially since there's some decks where it just will miss completely. I definitely sided it out in this draft. So keeping that in mind, it's a good card, but not one you want to take really early.
Sure. So Pure Steel Paladin, kind of a rare card, but not.
It's a rare. I've not actually played with it. It seems fine, but it's not a card I want to slam early either.
Okay. And then the card you ultimately end up with.
Yeah, this is a pretty easy pick. Wing Splasher is quite good. It's not only a 3/3 flyer, it also brings you a free 1/1. And as I saw during one of my games, it gives Hexplate Golem flying, which was very relevant.
Interesting. Okay, so let's look at your third pick, your third pack here.
Yeah.
This was kind of an interesting, a second Triumph for the Hordes.
Yeah, I think the Triumph is the best card in the pack, but given that I just passed a Triumph for the Hordes and have 2 blue cards, I still didn't really want to take it.
Caressa Phyrexia?
This is a good one, and it actually wheeled out of this pack after I didn't take it, which should not have happened. There's playables, but I mean, someone took a hover mirror. Probably my last round opponent who beat me with it. But Caressa Phyrexia is actually very good in Infect. And even a non-infect is not bad.
Right. Pristine Talisman, this seems like
It's
classic
right up my alley.
grindy cards.
Yeah, it's quite good. I like Pristine Talisman a lot. And then we've got Gitaxian Probe, which is a card I ultimately played, but not a card I looked to pick early. It's a fine card. It's not. I would not play it in an on-blue deck.
Sure. Maul Splicer.
Maul Splicer is also a fine card. It's a finisher.
And it seems like a card, even in a deck that's not green because it's 7 mana.
Yeah, you can splash it. I've done that before. One weakness is that I don't like it when my 7-drop gets stopped by a 4/4, which is what he does, because he makes some 3/3s.
Sure.
Vault Scourge is a card I almost always play in every deck, unless you're like aggressive infect.
Interestingly, so you're talking about not wanting these aggressive cards, but Vault Scourge is...
The lifelink is like relevant enough that even in my control decks, I like being able to ping them for a life every turn. So it's impressed me. And then we've got what? Parasitic Implant, which is the card I end up taking.
Right. Chancellor Tangle is just not even a card for you.
It's a card. It's just not. It's not better than any of the other options. It's better than like Maul Splicer if you're going to be green.
Right.
But it's not a card I was going to take. So,
sure. So tell me about why'd you pick Parasitic Implant?
It's a removal spell. I mean, it's sometimes is much worse. Like when you're low life and need a top deck removal, it's not the removal you're looking for. But it's a 2-for-1. I mean, it gives you a mirror and it kills anything, which is really nice. So it's a fine card.
And in a deck that's not aggressive,
yeah,
it's actually very good.
Yeah,
it's much better than...
Yeah, you don't want to be like, in an aggressive deck, you want to go kill your guy, attack. In my decks, I just kill your guy, take a hit, get a mirror, kill, it works out a lot better.
Okay, let's look at your 4th pack. So, Bladed Agent.
Yeah, this one went a little differently than you'd expect. After passing 2 Triumph Hordes, I actually snapped up Blighted Agent without much consideration. The only other options really were Psychic Barrier, which I don't like because double blue is just too tough.
Sure.
I'd much rather have Stoic Rebuttal. And Pestilent Soul Eater, which is a fine card. I would have. It was probably my 2nd pick out of this pack. But Blighted Agent, even in a non-poison deck, which I ended up being, it still kills people. It's actually really good. So.
It's definitely a clock, right?
And I was hoping that if I got one 4th, I might get one like 5th or 6th also. And if you open on 2 Blighted Agents, it kills almost anyone. So.
Sure. I mean, it's also nice. I mean, you can sometimes end up, well, maybe you don't like Psychic Barrier. Like if you see a Corrupted Resolve, like the Bladed Agent, Corrupted Resolve, you can just hit a bomb with it.
It does a lot of things. So.
Yeah. All right. Let's look at the fifth pick.
This was not too tough a pick. I was sad to see Brutalizer Exarch here. It's quite a good card. Someone was getting a punch of green to my left.
Right, absolutely.
But, Alloy Mirror was just an easy pick. I mean,
really?
It adds any color, especially since I had a Parasitic Implant I might want to splash. And I had a 5-drop already. Like, it's quite a good card. It's not as good as Palladium Mirror, but it's really good.
You're not thinking about...
But the next card there would have been Chain Throatseeker, which is, especially with Blighted Agent, like a reasonable guy. Right. And past that, I mean, that Toxic Name I think is generally worse than Chain Throatseeker. So.
Sure. Okay. Let's look at pick 6. Spinebiter. It's all surprising to see it still here.
Yeah, and at that point I was like really regretting not just taking Triumph of the Hordes and going for it. But then Pristine Talisman was still a fine pick. It fits perfectly into the deck I drafted. And yeah, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot here.
What do you think's happening in this draft? Is Leeching Bite not just a spectacular card?
Yeah, it's very good. The 3 or 4 people to my right just weren't green. And that just became evident. But at that point, it was, I think, too late to switch.
Sure. All right, so we took the Pristine Talisman, pick 7.
This was, not too close. Gremlin Mine is a removal spell still, so.
Right.
Vapor Snag is fine, but Gremlin Mine's actual removal. And between Vapor Snag, Steel Sabotage, and Disperse, you can usually get a bounce spell. Sure. Quicksilver Geyser, I want 1 bounce spell in all my blue decks, but I don't really want 2 or 3.
Okay. And there's a lot. Seems to be a lot of Maul Splicers in this draft.
Yeah.
Any thoughts to Mutagenic Growth?
It's a fine card, but it's not what I'm looking for in my decks. I don't really like Giant Growth.
Okay. So this is the last pack of cards that you're seeing for the first time. There's another Brutalizer XR.
Yeah, that guy should not still be here. He's very good. This was an easy pick. The Chain Throatseeker goes well with everything I'm trying to do. And I've got Talisman and Ally Mirror to accelerate it. It was,
Right, and you're happy with that guy just being even a wall for you?
Yeah, as a wall most of the time, and then sometimes he gets to attack if I draw a Blighted Agent.
Okay, so let's look now. We're going to go backwards. Mirrored and Besieged.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Well, I opened a bunch of red cards. I got a Hellkite, a Flame Fiend, and a Burn the Impure, and I opened a bunch of not good cards.
Right.
So even though I had all blue cards and a black card, I knew I was taking a red card. And Flame Fiend is just the best red card in the pack.
So that's been a debate, right? Burn the Impure, Flame Fiend, and Flame Fiend, and Hellkite Igniter. I've heard all 3 of those sort of cards juxtaposed against each other.
The only reason you could justify Burn the Impure is if you thought you wanted to splash red. which was a consideration. But Flame Fiend's a lot better, and it is better than Hellkite, despite me dying to Hellkite in the last round. Flame Fiend is very good. So it was not too tough a pick. I thought I was going to get cut red, because I saw no red pack one, but it turned out the guy to my right wasn't even red.
And you're also pushing red cards.
Yeah, and I'm setting back a burn and a Hellkite for the next two people. So
let's look at pick 2 here.
Yeah, another pretty much no-brainer. The I guess interesting thing to note is I took the burn, the Impure, obviously, and I figured like Hexplate Golem, Mirror, and Steel Sabotage all had a good shot of wheeling. I knew that like at least one of those cards was still going to be in the pack, just based on what else was in the pack. So that's the sort of thing you have to think about when you're looking at these cards in a later pack.
And were you thinking that these red cards may just be not paying off for you? I mean, is that something you're considering when you're taking the red cards?
No, I mean I knew this pack was going to be good in red, and the next pack was going to be bad.
Okay.
Or that's what I assumed, because the guy to my left couldn't be red. I passed not a single red card. So.
All right, let's look at your third pick. And
the red cards continue.
Yeah.
Blister Stick's quite good. He's a really reasonable guy. Killing their mirror on turn 3 is really awesome. And there's a lot of 1 toughness guys like Blighted Agent or Time Strike. Guys that used to not be that good, like Time Strike, are now very good. So
then how did the rest of the Mirrored and Besieged packs play out for you?
I picked up like another Blister Stick Shaman. I picked up a really late Treasure Mage, and I was counting on wheeling or getting a late Hexplate, and I got 1 Hexplate, and that was my only target, but it was still really good. I picked up 2 Steel Sabotage, and yeah, so like a pretty reasonable start. I was much happier after pack 2 than I was after pack 1. Okay,
so now we're all the way back in time to Scars of Mirrodin, and you open up your third pack, and
this is why we're blue. We open up Volition Rains. I shipped Trigon and Sunblast, which are both good, but Volition Rains is much better. I mean, it answers anything, and if you have a Volition Rains like a Karn or a Shield Red, it's like, so.
Yeah, right. This is one of the few really great answers to a Planeswalker.
Yeah, this was not even a remotely close pick. So.
Really, no temptation to switch.
I was already like 2 colors with good cards in those colors. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so pick 2.
Stone, Nothing, and a Shatter, so we took the Shatter. And at that point, I'm like, maybe the guy to my right, maybe he isn't red.
You're surprised to see the Shatter.
Yeah, and because especially it was like a pretty empty pack. It's not like he was passing a Assist Bearer or something.
Right.
So.
And then pick 3.
Well, Turn to Slag. So these picks were not very difficult.
Right.
And when he passed the Turn to Slag, it's like, oh, I guess there just wasn't red pack 1, but I'll take the Turn to Slag pretty happily.
And then you ended up with another Turn to Slag.
Yeah, the next pick was another Turn to Slag, pick 4.
Pick 4.
And then the pack rounded out with not a whole lot else. I got an Iron Mirror, which was like crucial because I drew it a lot in my opening hand, and my deck was full of 5-drops. And yeah, the deck ended up pretty good. A little clunky, but I mean, my decks usually are, and had a lot of removal. I had Shatter, 2 Turn to Slag, Burn the Impure, Flame Fiend, Volition Rains.
So I mean, this tournament started off very well for you. You went 7-0.
Yeah, it was 7-0. Then I lost this round to Hellkite.
You lost the final round to the Hellkite ignited.
Mostly to Enslave, but the Hellkite actually did the finishing.
Yeah.
So.
But again, it was very interesting. You get Hexplate Golems.
Yeah, we both
on
had
either side of the table.
Yeah.
Blighted Agent got enslaved.
Yeah, that
was like a
sucked.
huge moral victory for the Blighted Agent.
What we didn't see actually is I got an Inkmoth Nexus 4th pick.
Oh, that's right.
In Besieged, which should not happen because that card is really, really good. And between Blinkmoth Nexus and Blooded Agent, I almost poisoned him out.
Right, yeah. Game 2, you actually did poison him out.
And then game 3, I went turn 2 Iron Mirror, turn 3 Blooded Agent hit you with Nexus. But as it turned out, he had Burn the Impure, Perilous Mirror, and Enslaved, all to kill my guys, and it just didn't work out.
Yeah. So a nice start to the day.
Yeah, hoping to go 8-0, but I'll take 7-1.
All right, well, there you have it. Get yourself on Magic Online, start drafting some full Scars block.
Yeah, it's a really good format.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, especially if you like 7-mana artifact
Golem
creatures. So for Luis Scott-Vargas, this is Brian David Marshall signing off from the Tournament Center.